Be careful not to get too close, I might just go. Might just go. We like to go. Boom.
Hi everyone, welcome to Printful Threads. My name is Elizabeth and I'm from Printful's marketing team, and I'm going to be moderating the conference today. If you're new to Printful Threads, this is our very own online conference series where we invite industry professionals to share some experience to make sure that you can make your store as successful as possible. Today we'll be covering topics ranging from UI and UX design and online store design to creating tangible products from your art. We have invited 3 experts today. First, we'll hear about the intersection of art and e-commerce from an entrepreneur and artist, Taylor Redler. Next, we'll get some UI and UX wizardry from Flanders, who is a UI and UX designer here at Printful. And lastly, we're going to get some online store design tips from Jenneviere Villegas, who is a merchant engagement manager at Shopify. We want to hear your feedback throughout the conference, so make sure to share your thoughts and questions. You can leave a comment on the live stream and we'll get to your questions in the Q&A later. Just make sure to mention the speaker who you're asking the question to. You can also post your takeaways on any public social media account using the hashtag Printful Threads. And as a thank you for your insights, we're going to randomly select 50 winners who will get $10 coupons to Printful. To enter, you just need to use the Printful Threads hashtag on any public social media account, be that Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, or a public Facebook page. We will reach out to the lucky winners within the first 24 hours after the conference. So welcome our first expert, Taylor Redler, who is going to be sharing her experience in creating tangible products from her art. She's a passionate painter and successful entrepreneur who earns from her art. Welcome, Taylor. How are you doing?
Hi, guys. I'm great. How are you? Great. So today I am going to be telling you guys how to turn your art into textiles. And before we get started, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Taylor Redler. I created Art by Taylor Redler, which is a small business that turned from selling little watercolor cards on Etsy to now creating home decor items and a wide range of apparel through Printful. So when I got started, my main goal was to make sure that mental health awareness and addiction awareness was always the forefront of my mission. I used to work in the mental health field, and I wanted to make sure that me pursuing my art wasn't just about me. And I made sure that my art is always inspired and explained to be about the struggles and stipulations of mental health and addiction recovery and wellness. So the largest thing that I had to get over when I started the small business, especially at the beginning, was actually calling myself an artist. I shuddered at the thought of telling people I was an artist. It was something that I just did for fun. And when I started posting my paintings, people were buying them, and it kind of confused me. And my friends kept pushing me, just do it. I haven't seen you happy like this. And I started selling my art in Asheville, where I was working at a treatment center during COVID. And that was like the only thing we could do. We were able to do art and have any kind of creative healing. And I learned that is my truest form of healing, is to really transmute my trauma into art. And art is anything. Art is love. There is no set term or definition for what art is. And I think my biggest point of this entire presentation and conversation today is telling you, no matter what your definition of art or who you think is going to judge your art, whatever you want to design and whatever feels like home to you is what you should be creating and what you should be pursuing. So one form of art that I especially started to fall deeply in love with is textiles. I went to the Fashion Institute of Technology for high school classes during high school and was kind of like dabbling in interior design. I didn't go that way. It didn't happen. But I've since been able to turn not only like my art business into starting to shift into home decor and apparel and allowing my paintings to live on in different ways. So my textiles are prints, but there's so many different forms of textiles that you can design. So print on demand and textile design. There are a ton of different ways that you can create different kinds of prints, different kind of art. Like I said before, there's no true definition of art. Whatever textile feels right to you. Textile is fabric that you could wear. The textiles that I create are pillows, throw blankets, apparel, yoga pants, stuff like that. And Printful makes it really, really easy to use a wide range of products to create something that keeps you inspired. Just getting started and starting to design textiles using Printful, you could use a ton of their already stock photos. There's stock photos, there's different fonts. Just getting online, starting to play with the product templates, you're going to get inspired to create something. This is my personal biggest struggle is comparison. I'm sure if you follow my journey, you know that I talk about it a lot. It has almost stopped me in my tracks to fulfill my small business dreams. I found myself comparing myself to other artists, and I really had to tell myself that it doesn't matter what anyone else is creating. It doesn't matter even what I'm creating. I'm constantly evolving. I don't need to stick to something. I don't need to stick to a narrative. I could compare myself to anyone, and I could even compare myself to myself. And that stops the true flow and creative intuition that you have when you need to feel confident to start a small business. And my favorite quote of all time is comparison is the thief of joy. And I actually named that one of my paintings, and it truly is true for me. It could completely block me from success. And yeah, the only thing standing in your way of your success is yourself. I stood directly in my own path, in my own way. I almost quit so many times just simply because of fear of judgment and not my art or what my art means to me, the healing behind my art, that kind of started to go out the window. And when I reeled myself in and knew that I want to start this small business, grow this business, I want to impact people's lives, that's when you truly find that you'll feel inspired. I think I can't speak for everyone, but I'm pretty sure most small business owners go through this cycle of feeling like on top of the world and then a lag of sales and then having that inspiration come again and actually being able to figure out what works and what doesn't. So how to create textile. It's funny how this even happened. I am a very passionate person, and I say exactly what's on my mind. And I was contacting Printful just saying, thank you. These pillows are incredible. I love them so much. And I started almost feeling like I was like representing Printful without even having anything to do with them. But the biggest thing is Printful is amazing if you put in the work to make those prints amazing. I had a lot of trial and error with prints that were blurry. I was using a ton of different printing companies that weren't working for me. And I wanted high quality prints, and I wanted to make sure that the quality, the texture and textile itself was what I represent and what I want people to feel in their bodies. So creating that textile is creating the art, and art to you is whatever art is to you, and drill that into your head. Take photos of that art, edit the photos, test the resolution. That's the most important part, is making sure that the resolution is high and making sure that what is being printed on Printful's products is what you had in mind. Envisioning a design and actually seeing a design printed is two totally different things. I don't know if this will be able to focus, but this is one of my favorite pillows, washout, and I had to make sure that the print was clear enough to make sure the print was clear enough to have the texture being picked up. And people walk by and say, oh my God, I thought that texture was really on the pillow. And that was the whole goal of it. I wanted people to feel the texture. I wanted my paintings to live on. So that's the most important, is creating the art, testing the quality, and Printful will do the rest. This is a example of one of my favorite paintings, Behind Plaster Walls. And I turned that into a throw pillow, a throw blanket, and yoga pants. I think it's really fun to test different styles of paintings, because abstract art isn't for everyone. I love abstract art. I feel, especially just from different artists, I feel a ton of different emotions from different abstract artists. And some people don't have brains that work like that. But when you have a pillow that is soft and you're staring at it, you love the way it looks, and then you read, what inspired that art, it's a totally different experience. It's allowing people to have a different experience with your art and your design. And I think that definitely was one of the main reasons it opened up a completely different demographic, and why I started to gain success, and I started to gain confidence in my art in a different way, because I saw it in a different way and people were able to see it in a different way. So this painting is the original painting, Behind Plaster Walls, and then the photo beside it is the textile that I used for Printful. So I uploaded this picture on Printful. I made sure the editing was high quality. It was crisp, not too bright, not too dark. And you could really just Printful makes it really easy to play around with the quality of your paintings. You could see what's going to work and what's not going to. And some products, there's some prints that won't work for some products, but other products it looks incredible. So this is a step-by-step example of how I turned deservingness into a textile. I think I definitely use this one because it actually has fiber art in it, which is something that's been super inspiring to me as I started using Printful and creating all of these textiles and having all these different ideas flow, which is what's going to happen is you're going to start designing and all of these ideas will flow. And that's like the best part of, you're going to have fun designing these prints on Printful. But I wanted to make sure that you guys saw how realistic the yarn actually comes out on the products. People think that it's embroidered. And even though, the textile itself isn't fiber art, it's a print of fiber art, it still represents, the uniqueness of what you and your brand could bring to the table. So this quality, this print is the only, so this print's quality is directly resulting the editing of the lighting. I took pictures inside and outside sometimes, paintings that have a little bit more, especially the concrete paintings. I use a lot of different techniques and tools with my paintings, a lot of plaster, natural ingredients, concrete, lots of different materials. So the pictures definitely look different. Oil paint comes up different. It's all about just testing the quality of the paintings and being creative. I got a bunch of lights from Walmart. They were $10, and some were brighter than others and some were dimmer. And I figured out what mediums that I work with that need what lighting, and that changed everything in the quality of the prints. So that is an example of deservingness as a throw pillow, and the way that I loved seeing little kids go up and try to touch the yarn, because that's really how, I'm sure you can't see how high quality it is over the presentation, but it's really high quality. And that is an example of an iPhone case and yoga pants. So I wanted to put a variety of products, because it's kind of what I was talking about earlier, is there could be a print that you really like and want to work as multiple products, but sometimes it doesn't. You have to make sure that you are covering the entire product with your print, or it might have a barrier that you could see that it's a printed fabric and product, print on demand product. And you want to make sure that you're submitting something that will produce high quality products. And in this case, this was able to produce a great iPhone case and yoga pants. So again, what makes a great textile? I want to just completely drill in your brain that art is love, and art should be describing your creative journey. And the only reason that you should be starting a small business is because you feel inspired to. It's not easy. Starting a small business is not easy, and there's a lot of hurdles, but there's so many amazing experiences and learning curves that you go through, that figuring out exactly what your small business is growing to be doesn't come overnight. It's trial and error. And especially with Printful, you could use a ton of different products to see what works for your demographic, what works for a wider demographic. I definitely played with a ton of different products that I know if I'm going to a certain event that the yoga pants are going to do really well. Or I worked with a home decor store, Nadu, and their customers really, really loved the pillows. So having the pillows and blankets there at the home decor store that just sold furniture in Charleston, having those being added was a completely different experience, because there isn't that art component and it brings warmth. Your products from Printful aren't just products that you could use for e-commerce. That's something I also want to talk about before we're done too, is that Printful isn't just e-commerce. You can order these products and bring them to market. You can order them and test them, and they actually send you samples. They send you 2 samples of products, and you could make sure that the quality is right and you get what your vision was. And I'm so grateful that Printful has allowed me to open doors that I naturally wouldn't have. I wouldn't have been able to walk into a home decor store when I'm not a design artist, interior design artist. But it kind of opened up a new pathway of my love for interior design and my love for home decor turning into something else. So I think that just kind of opens the door to designing those textiles. These are some important questions to ask while you're designing them. Will this create a high quality print? I think we've gone over that a lot. Is this design original? What makes this unique? Will this design appeal to my target demographic? And would I wear this design? And what does this design say about my business? I think figuring out what you want your brand to represent and who you are as a business owner and who you want your brand to represent, what demographic you want to relate to, is a huge part of the process behind textiles. Like you could be targeting high school students and create sketches that resonate with them. And there's a wide range of things that you could do to try to figure out what demographic you ideally want to work with. And the list is endless. So these are a couple just little ideas that I came up with that could kind of just start sparking your fire and get you excited to start designing textiles. So I kind of just put down map designs, landscapes, portraits, sketches, graphic designers. I mean, NFTs are huge right now. Putting that on a t-shirt, just things using pop culture, what's going on in the world, who you want to impact in the world, and tying that all together is the way that you get started. So utilizing Printful's design features, you have the opportunity to make sure your prints are quality and they are going to produce a product that you will be proud to share. Is making sure that you listen to Printful's advice. You are not going to be stranded on a little textile island when you start designing. They will have things pop up saying, this does not fit. This isn't high quality enough. Use this pattern tool. There are so many resources Printful has to offer to make sure that it is quality. And I know that starting a business is scary and it's huge to take that leap of faith to get started and do it, but you just have to get started. I know that sounds crazy, but just getting started and seeing what works while working that side job. I worked in kitchens randomly. Shout out to Side Gig, because I couldn't start this small business without picking up little random jobs here and there. I was able to focus on my dream of starting this business while being able to barely pay my rent and start thinking of different ideas. If you don't get started, you never will. You will never have enough money to start, enough loans to start. You're going to keep putting it off until you're so miserable at your job that you're going to be wishing that you started it a long time ago. The rest will follow, I promise. If you are doing what your heart feels drawn to doing, if you feel happy and you feel fulfilled and you feel at home doing what you're doing for your life, this is your life, and you have the opportunity to make it as beautiful as you want, then just take the risk and start doing it. Do the research, take one little action, one little step every day to fulfill your dreams. And thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun, and I absolutely adore Printful. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. It was genuinely super inspiring. I was sitting here getting all giddy. Sorry for the harsh start. We got super excited to get you on. Did you enjoy yourself?
Oh, it was so much fun. I was very nervous. And once I start talking about something I'm passionate about, I could talk forever. But the nerves building up is not good. But awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. We have so many questions already coming in, and we're going to try to get to them, or at least most of them, during the Q&A section.
Awesome.
So we'll be seeing you again. Don't go anywhere. And for everybody asking, check out artbytaylorredler.com. That's where you can get the art. So Taylor is a perfect example, in my opinion, of what Printful is all about. We're always happy to hear stories about how Printful helped people turn their ideas into successful brands. Remember to continue asking questions and sharing takeaways from this presentation with the hashtag Printful Threads. Now, it's time for our second speaker, Leon Flanders, who is going to tell us all about UI and UX design. He's Printful's very own UI and UX and graphic designer, and he's going to be teaching you about how to optimize your store's checkout process. He has more than 7 years of experience working in design in different design and web agencies before Printful too. So welcome, Leon. How are you feeling?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you. Awesome to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right. I'm very excited to hear what you have to say. So take it away.
All right. Well, I wanted to talk to you about optimizing your store's checkout process. So imagine the following. You invested money in a new exciting ad campaign. Users click on the ad, land on your page, and add products to cart. They proceed to the checkout page and leave without a purchase. So the fail to purchase usually happens in the checkout steps, and it's called cart abandonment. So why do users abandon carts? Here we have a survey by Baymart.com, and it shows us all the most popular reasons for cart abandonment. We have extra costs are too high, the site wanted me to create an account, delivery was too slow, I didn't trust the site with my credit card information, too long, complicated checkout process, and so on. And yes, almost all of these problems can be solved by better design solutions. So what is the checkout process? It's very often seen as just the shipping and payment info step, and although that is possibly the most crucial step, I would argue that it starts as early as in the open product view, where the user or your customer is actually beginning the decision. And once they click on that add to cart button, they are beginning the commitment of purchase. And once they are inside the cart, they are making the decision. And once they put in all the shipping and payment information, they are committing to the purchase. And in the final step, they are reassured that everything is fine with their order and are waiting for their products to come to their home. So let's go through all of the steps and see how we can improve the whole process. This is an opened product view. So you can see that we have a rating there. We have the name of the product, a short description. We have price. You can select sizes, colors, and you can add it to cart. On the left side, you can see the gallery of the product, and below some secondary information about like fit and feel, materials used, and so on. So what can we improve about this? Let's start with reviews. It's not enough to just show the stars. You want to add the number of the reviews, and ideally to expand them and show each individual review as well, because it's a very powerful tool to kind of have this social approval of your product. And they make the decision of buying the product for you users much easier. Next up, emphasize if there is a discount. So we previously saw that it's just a old price strike through. Maybe add some kind of a badge or the name of the sale or how many percent are you saving and stuff like that. And the next thing is probably the most important one. Display the shipping costs already in this step and not later, because that is one of the most popular reasons why people abandon carts, because they just didn't anticipate the high costs of shipping. And in this example, the shipping is free, which I also urge you to consider having, as this is something that is very popular in e-commerce now and almost an expected thing in a lot of shops. And you just think about the shipping costs and add them to the price of the product itself. Add size guides. This is also an important one because, as you know, sometimes we order, for example, the large size of the t-shirt because it usually fits us, and then it comes to you and you wear it and it's all too short or too long or too big. And the size guide kind of prevents this kind of thing. And if you're using Printful for your products, we offer these size guides for all of our products, and you can just copy that information to your store as well. Next is display availability of the products as well. So if you don't have an ability to kind of show exact number of how many products are left, just say that it's in stock or out of stock. Another thing to add here is also displaying the delivery times and assuring that users that the product ships to their location. So if you're using geolocation and your shop understands that the user is browsing for example, Latvia, provide the information for that place and how long it will take for the product to arrive. Next one is a pretty small detail, but it's easy to execute and add to your store. Adding icons to buttons and all the CTAs kind of helps with the cognitive load and lets the user understand what exactly can be done by pressing a button or doing an action. And if you are doing upselling, which you should, consider doing it in this step and not later in the process. So here you can see how they compare side by side. The right version looks a little bit more cluttered, but I assure you that all of that information is very important and crucial for your user. Next up is adding to the cart. So here we can see a very known two-step flow of adding to cart. Once the user adds an item to the cart opens, and once the user presses proceed to checkout, the store asks the user to put in the email or log into the account. And that is not a good way to handle this step. So how can we improve this? First of all, add a counter of items next to the cart icon, of course. So once the user has added the product to the cart, you show this number and you expand the shopping cart. And instead of doing it in a separate view, in a separate page, use a drawer type shopping cart like here in the example. Because here you want to really mimic a real life shopping experience. When you're shopping in a supermarket, for example, you add item to your cart, you see that it's in the cart, but you're still strolling around and looking around. So the equivalent of doing it in a separate page would be if a security guard comes up to you every time you put something in the cart and asks you to pay it at that spot. Another cool thing to add is adding another state to your buttons once something is done, and like mimicking the success of the action. So letting the user know that what they did was successful. So once the customers have added everything they want, they make the decision to proceed to the checkout. And here we can see like the summary of all things that happened this far. And what can we do here? Remove navigation items to reduce amount of exit points. So before we had the cart displayed, but it doesn't take you anywhere. So users still can add more things there, but once they have done that and they proceeded here, we want them really to focus on these next steps to actually purchase these items. So removing these exit points is crucial at this point. Next thing is divide the checkout process into smaller steps and add the progress steps here above, where the user can kind of see where they are at the moment and how many steps are still left. So it kind of sets the expectations of how long this will take. And offer users to sign in with a clear message that all cart progress will be saved. We don't force them to do this, but if they are a returning customer, for example, if they sign in, all of their shipping and payment information is already filled in previously, and now we don't have to do these steps again. But if it's a new customer, we don't want to ask them anything, including email, because we will ask for email later. This is an optional thing, but a nice to have. Add a delivery country switcher here as well. So there could be examples where user buys something not for themselves, but maybe for a friend or a family member in a different country, and they want to see if any shipping costs will change based on that delivery point. Allow edit product quantity here as well. So if the user decided to purchase multiple products, they are able to do it here. And promo codes should be always put in before the CTA button before they proceed to the next step, because sometimes we get these promo codes lost somewhere, and maybe in other steps, maybe for shipping, for example, or somewhere there. We want to give the user the ability to put in these promo codes early. Again, add another icon to just kind of mimic the experience. And here, for example, this arrow explains the user that this will proceed to a next step. And another very vital thing to do is adding additional information about how the shipping is safe, how the payments are safe, how many payment methods do you offer. So the user also has these expectations of what can happen, and they feel secure in your store. So here are the cart steps side by side. The better improved version and the simple version. And next is the most tedious and crucial step in the checkout process, where the user has to make the biggest effort yet and fill in all of this information. And as you can see, it's very long form here that we often see in checkout processes, and we don't want to see this. I think even in this presentation, it's hard to understand what's going on there, but basically we have here billing address, we have delivery address, we have shipping method, and we have payment, and only then you can proceed further. So instead of doing this, as I said before, let's split these things into smaller steps. And what else can we do here is indicate the fields that are filled correctly with no errors, so user understands that everything is fine. And same goes with errors when the user fills in something wrong. And don't show the error just as an error. Provide information what the user did wrong and how to fix it. So in this example, the postcode entered is too long, and it should consist of 4 digits instead. And another important thing to add is add the error messages next to the place where the error is made, and not somewhere like else, like a universal place to talk about all errors. Keep the order summary visible throughout all the steps, so the users can always double check the order info and make sure everything is correct. And here in the third step, we can see the payment step. Cool thing to add is icons of acceptable payment cards that you accept for payment. So if the user doesn't want to use PayPal or other accelerated payment methods and they want to use card, they want to be assured that the card that they have will be accepted here. And same thing goes for the card number. This is also a nice to have thing, but basically Visa, MasterCard, Amex, and all other card providers have these unique first numbers. And if your interface can tell the user that they are inputting a MasterCard, this is also kind of cool reassurance that everything is correct. Next is adjusting the form fields to fit the number of characters that can be entered. And don't use drop-downs for dates because it's much more easier to just put in the numbers in your keyboard. And use 2 numbers both for months and both for years. I had recently an experience where I entered the month with 2 numbers, and I expected the same to work with the years, because on the card actually you just see the last 2 digits of the year and not the 4 digits. So if you entered 2 digits but the interface asks you for 4, it's kind of confusing. So just ask for 2. Another small detail is explaining what CVV number is by icon, although it's nice to have both icon and a text. And here we can also see that in our order summary, since we filled in the shipping step, we have the shipping information here as well. So if there is a mistake made in that step, user can catch it early on and go back to that step and fix it if needed. Again, for side-by-side comparison, the long tedious form or 2 steps for adding 2 different types of information. I think you will agree that this looks much better. And the last step is the one that gets skipped a lot. Instead of leaving user confused about the purchase and next steps, add the full summary here. So what we have here is also returning the navigation for potential further journeys, because the thing that we wanted the user to do is done. The purchase is successful, everything is cool, so now they can browse your site for some new things maybe. Then we also want to indicate that the order was made successfully, that everything is fine with the checkmark icon, and just thanking the user that everything is done and that the order will be on its way. And on the left side, we also provide the full summary of all the things that user put in themselves, and also provide the order number. And actually, in this step, we can offer to create an account with only 1 step left, which would be the password creation, because all of the other information that is needed for user to create an account has already been input during the checkout steps. So now I know that some of the things I shared today may be a bit too difficult to execute if you don't have technical skills, or if you are limited by the platform your store is on. But you can always consider hiring a professional to do this. Or if you're not ready for that at this point, here are the main takeaways that you can do to kind of improve this checkout steps. The first thing is to be upfront with all costs and delivery times as early as possible before the actually going to cart, and that will remove the cart abandonment, because there will not be a cart to abandon if they see this information in the single product view, for example. And don't force user to create an account or log in, because that's just an extra step that they don't want to do at that point. They want to go and proceed and check out, and that's just a hurdle that doesn't need to be there. Break the checkout process into smaller steps, and provide safe and trusted shortcuts where possible. And the last thing is to reassure users about the safety of payments and shipping all the way through. You want your store to look professional, safe, and trustworthy. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leon. That was super thorough, and I feel like when people think of design, they think of something super abstract and creative, but this really proves that it's a very empathetic and detailed process. So thank you for that.
Yes,
Right.
Thank you.
I hope you've been taking notes at home. This is some great stuff. And if you have any questions for Leon or any of our speakers, please leave them in the comments. And don't forget to mention who they're for so that we know who to ask them during the Q&A section. And you can also go ahead and share your thoughts and takeaways on Instagram, Twitter, or any other social media site using the hashtag Printful Threads. Thank you again, Leon. And last, but certainly not least, we have Jenneviere Villegas from Shopify. So, welcome, Jenneviere.
Hi, thank you for having me.
We're super excited to have you. She's been involved in commerce for over 15 years, diving into everything from sourcing and manufacturing, operations to pop-up events, retail management, e-commerce, organic social media marketing, everything. All of the
things.
Yeah. Welcome, Jenneviere. I hope you're ready and excited.
I'm so excited.
All right, then take it away.
Awesome. Let's go. So as you just heard, I am Jenneviere from Shopify. In addition to being from Shopify, I'm also from San Francisco. I'm joining you from sunny San Francisco today, where it's gorgeous out. In addition to that, I also have a Printful store. So I use Printful for my own online store. So I feel like I have a breadth of knowledge to share with you today. So we're just going to dive right in. Before we get to what good looks like, however, I want to know, how many of you have experienced bad design on an online store? I'd love for you to sound off in the chat with a recent badly designed online store experience you had. You don't have to name names, but maybe you can explain what you experienced. Like maybe a pop-up took over your screen and you couldn't find the close button without interacting with it. Maybe it was text heavy with different fonts and hard to read colors. Was it a callback to the 1990s? Or maybe it was just absolutely terrible on mobile. And yes, every image on the left-hand side of the screen cap, every one of those little things is a live link. So we only have a short time together today. So while there are a ton of compelling reasons why building a beautiful, easy-to-use online store is important, I'm going to share with you two main start here topics. First, I'm going to be covering some basic design principles to consider when building your online store. And then I'm going to dig deeper in on the three most important building blocks to focus when starting your online store. So while I'm talking, I would love for you to think about a brand that you find inspiring, or even a brand that you aspire to. Maybe you're following them to get ideas, or you're stalking them to see what they're up to. So think of that brand that you find inspiring or you aspire to, and see if they might follow any of the things that I'm going to talk about today. Imagine visiting an online store for the very first time. What would encourage you to actually make a purchase? To go through the entire purchase process involves trust. Some common indicators of trust are contact information. Make your contact info easily accessible. This reminds people that there's a person behind the brand, and it helps generate confidence. Here you can see Allbirds. They offer a few different options for contacting them, including chat in the lower right corner. If your contact information feels hidden, or if a shopper has to jump through a bunch of hoops to reach out to you, that can erode trust with your potential buyers. Also, post your returns policy. It might seem counterintuitive, but this can increase purchases by instilling a sense of confidence in your customer because they know if they really need to, they have a way to return their product. Again, our friends over at Allbirds, they have their returns and exchanges policy in their footer under their help section, which also has, again, their contact information. Checkouts, as we heard from Leon, can be overwhelming. Offer your shoppers commonly preferred accelerated checkouts like Apple Pay, Google Pay, PayPal, and if you're using Shopify, use ShopPay. These accelerated checkout options reduce distractions and the chance for mistakes, and they build trust with your shoppers. There are benefits to doing this that go beyond trust too. Even when compared to other accelerated checkout methods like Apple Pay or PayPal, ShopPay has an 11% higher conversion rate on mobile and 4% higher conversion rate on desktop. All right, the next principle for design is visual appeal. People form their first impression within the first few seconds of visiting your store, which is why your visuals need to appeal. The first element of visual appeal is photography, which we heard Taylor talk about. There are two types of photos to focus on. Number one, product photos. These are products that you photograph on a neutral, such as a white or a light gray background, which strips away any distractions so your product can appeal to different demographics. And it makes it easy to see the details. Here you can see Dr. Squatch uses a neutral background that's on brand for the rest of their visual styling. And then lifestyle or brand photos. They're so important. They allow customers to visualize themselves interacting with your products on a day-to-day basis. They can have a great impact on the look and the feel of your online store. So this is where you can really start to express your brand's personality. And be sure to incorporate diversity in your brand photos. The important part is that as many people as possible can see themselves using your product. This part in particular can sometimes be where our own internal biases show up. So I'm encouraging you to challenge yourself to be as diverse as possible across body type, age, race, gender, ability, and other areas when thinking about your photography. Color is a powerful tool you can use to spark interest and emotion. It can also be used to draw attention to specific sections of your website, and it can even lead customers down a specific buyer's journey. The golden rule for colors on an online store: choose two, a primary and a secondary. And when in doubt, less is more. A monochromatic color palette can be a super solid foundation, and you can always consider incorporating more color as accents in your imagery. Keep in mind, when there is more contrast between colors of a background and the text, people can more easily read the text. Now, I'm a big fan of Canva, Canva.com, which has a color palette generator, but there are several free options out there if you want to do a search. But here, I uploaded Megababe's homepage into Canva's tool, and you can see their strong color palette, which they then use throughout their site to create a branded experience. And you'll notice how they use that high contrast Shop Now button to draw your attention to the action they want you to take. Customers expect to see dynamic and interesting typography on a website. While the words you write share information, it's important that the typography communicates the emotion of the information to help you build your brand identity. Legibility matters. Keep your body font simple and easy to read. And when it comes to headings, that's where you can be a little bit more adventurous with the font style you choose. So in this example, you can see how changing the fonts affects the feel of each product listing. Each choice evokes a different emotion. And again, golden rule, try to stick to two fonts. We know mobile commerce is taking over. 79% of smartphone users have made a purchase online using their mobile device in the last 6 months alone. There is no doubt that your customers will expect to be able to buy your products on mobile. When building your site, test the transaction flow on both desktop and mobile to make sure that you're happy with it. If you're not happy with it, there's 1,000% chance that your customers won't be either. And finally, your website navigation should help your customers find your products and other things like the contact information quickly and easily, and it improves the online store shopping experience. Try to use between 3 and 4 headers only for your main navigation menu. Sites with too many navigation options, they feel cluttered, they feel overwhelming, and they increase the likeliness that visitors are going to bounce or take the wrong path. So, in this example, the upper portion, it's cluttered, it's confusing, and as a first-time visitor to your site, I'm not necessarily going to know where to even start, compared to the bottom portion, which is just much nicer to look at and can help me on my buyer's journey. Be as succinct as possible when labeling headers. And if you're just getting started, consider using these headers as your starting points. Get your shop header, do a new or bestsellers option, have your about us, and always, always, always have your contact us information there. Every good brand starts somewhere, and a good brand constantly evolves. Your brand voice and story helps you differentiate your business and helps your customers understand what you stand for, and a solid store design can help with that. Now that I've gone over some important design principles, let's get to designing your store with conversions in mind. I'm going to give you 3 building blocks that you should focus on when you start building your online store. Building block number 1, your homepage. The first thing is to get clear on the goal or goals of your homepage. What do you want visitors to do when they arrive on your store? If a visitor is checking out your store for the first time, they might not buy right away, and that's okay. If you're selling an impulse buy product, like a phone case, it could work to your advantage to encourage your visitors to buy right away through a really direct call to action, a CTA, that says buy now. But if you're selling a high ticket item, you might want to have the call to action direct visitors to sign up for an email list instead, so you can continue to market to them to gently guide them down the funnel toward conversion. Now, here's a fantastic example. Mo's Bows clearly shows and tells what it sells. It offers a full, beautiful hero image. There's a clear call to action there, that shop now button. They have concise header links in the upper left-hand corner. And as you scroll, more details are covered below the fold. Now, as I mentioned earlier, header navigation should be as straightforward as possible. A good practice is to prioritize your navigation links from left to right, with the most important pages being on the left. Again, Mo's Bows does a great job here. If you have a large inventory, make sure you have search enabled to make it easy for your customers to find what they're looking for, and include that in your navigation header as well. Also, guide your user's journey. Displaying best-selling items is a great way to quickly educate your customer on what's selling and convince them to buy. You could also try displaying products that are new or trending this week, which would work well for a store with, again, a larger inventory of products. Here you see over at Blenders Eyewear, they have a trending today section on their homepage. Okay, building block number 2, the product page. Your product page is the closest your customer will come to interacting with your product. I'm going to say that again because it is really important. Your product page is the closest your customer will come to interacting with your product. While you may have a number of important product details to cover in a single page, your goal should be a distraction-free opportunity to purchase. Make it clear what the product is and why it's valuable, and make sure this information is at the top of the page above the fold. They shouldn't have to scroll. You can include more detail further down the page, but you should provide your customers with all they need to know at a quick glance. Write your descriptions as if you were talking to somebody in person. Talk about details like measurements, sure. But more importantly, talk about the benefits of the features you're describing. Here you can see how Lunia optimizes their product page to include a description, but it also keeps that add to bag button above the fold. And thinking about what we discussed earlier about photography, provide detailed product photos, ideally from multiple angles. This is as close as your shoppers get to experiencing your product in real life. Help them love it. It's a good idea to use a consistent image size ratio for product images to create a uniform look across your store. I typically recommend squares. And here you can see Lunia uses square images, but also plays around with the layout to create a visually interesting page. And you can't tell this from the screenshot, but the bottom image is actually a video, which is amazing. Next, be sure to highlight the clear call to action, that CTA, and make sure it's above the fold. It might seem obvious, but make sure you don't accidentally distract people from being able to add a product to their cart. Buying should be easy, which means your call to action should be impossible to miss. Make sure it's above the fold and eye-catching in bold or contrasting colors. And the copy is direct. This is not the place to get clever with your copywriting. Save that for your product description and elsewhere on your site. So here in this example, you can see the add to cart button takes a beautiful center stage position. It sits nice and high above the fold, and there's nothing in this section of the page that's drawing your attention away from the reason you're there, which is to buy. All right. As we heard from Leon, reviews have become essential for establishing trust with shoppers. Think about a recent time you shopped online. Did you read the reviews? If you did, you are not alone. Nearly 95% of shoppers read reviews before making a purchase. And surveys have consistently shown that customers trust reviews more than descriptions provided by the store or the manufacturer. If you have a Shopify store and you haven't enabled reviews yet, and you would like to know how, please reach out to me after today's talk. I am happy to show you where to access Shopify's free product review app. Great testimonials focus on real people. As you can see in this example from Megababe, who we met earlier with their color scheme, their customers are passionate about their product, even when they're writing in to say that it works great, but they just don't care for the smell. Okay, building block number 3, the checkout page. The checkout page is one of the last stops in your buyer's journey. They've added a product to their cart, and you are potentially moments away from getting the sale. You want to keep the process as quick and as easy as possible for your customers to check out. There are a few things you can change in your checkout to create brand consistency. First, you can upload your company logo. You can change the colors of the checkout elements to match the color palette of your store. You can change the fonts to match the same style as your website. But again, use simple, easy to read fonts here. Your goal is to have a distraction-free experience for your buyers. And then accelerated payment methods, which I mentioned before. Apple Pay, Google Pay, Shop Pay are options I mentioned earlier that can help build trust and make it simple and fast for your customers to check out. Now, I am biased, but I love how easy Shop Pay makes my own personal shopping experience. And a recent study showed that Shop Pay is 4 times faster than standard checkout, which is great news when you think about how many shoppers are using their mobile devices to find new brands and products. You can also utilize buy now, pay later options. These are also called installments. You can use these during checkout to increase the average order value, often referred to as AOV, and reduce cart abandonment. These buy now, pay later options are increasingly common, and they offer a seamless shopping experience for your customers. They drive more repeat purchases by allowing your shoppers a flexible way to complete their shopping. On average, merchants using Shop Pay installments saw a 31% higher average order value than those who didn't offer installments. It's super powerful. So now you know the design principles to consider when building your online store, as well as the 3 most important building blocks to focus on. I tell brands and store owners all the time, perfect is the enemy of done. Dive in and know that even those brands that you've been following for inspiration, they're evolving all the time. Just get it out there and then iterate again. And speaking of inspiring brands, I asked you at the beginning of my talk to think of a brand that you find inspiring or aspirational. I would love for you to email me and let me know the brands you thought of that you find inspiring, that you're following. Please reach out, send me your inspiration, ask me follow-up questions. You can even send me horrible design experience stories, or if you are particularly adventurous, I am a huge fan of the television show Schitt's Creek, and you can email me Schitt's Creek memes or GIFs. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much to Printful for inviting me to speak. I hope you all stick around for the live Q&A. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenneviere. That was amazing. I was over here taking notes. I genuinely loved it.
Great. Thank you.
All right. I think we can sort of move on to the Q&A portion. We've had so many questions. We're not going to be able to ask all of them, but I think we can be joined by everybody for now and just move on. All right. So, are you guys ready? Are you guys ready to be answering questions?
So ready.
Yes.
All right, awesome. So we can move on with the first question, which is for Taylor. And the question is, how do you get over a creative block?
Oh, that happens, to be honest with you, that happens every couple weeks. I will go on a little tangent of painting, create textiles for those, and I'll sit down and start painting, and everything I paint looks terrible to me, terrible to me. And those, it's funny because some of those end up selling when I least expect them to sell. But my favorite ones don't sell. But I think the biggest thing is making sure you know how to cope with the feelings of fear. I know that feels kind of separate, but I think a lot of artist block is fear, and having a place to go where you feel inspired. Like the beach is my safe place. I love going to the beach. I always get inspired by the beach, and I love collecting sand and shells for my paintings too. So just using different mediums, also gathering different mediums and testing different products and stuff like that is definitely a way to get over artist block. You just have to do it. You have to paint. You won't get over it if you don't create anything.
Yeah, that is honestly the only advice that works, definitely. Like the next question is for Leon, but at any point, any of you can sort of jump in and offer your perspectives as well. So the question is, UI and UX design can get very technical, which can seem overwhelming. How could someone get over that feeling, and is there a right place to start?
Am I looking straight?
Well, yeah, UI UX is feels maybe more intimidating than it is. Basically, what we want to do with UI and UX is empathize with the users. We want to understand what are their goals, what are their mission while using the product or shopping in your store. So I think the best way to start is just to think about the user, go through the flows, the possible flows in your store, in your product, in your app, whatever you're building, and just imagine yourself in the user's shoes and what to improve in those steps. Another thing that helps is also giving your friends or family members to kind of test out the thing that you've built and see if they have any setbacks or problems, or what they really liked maybe in the process, and maybe build on that and so on.
All right, that sounds like great advice, especially for beginners. Now, For Jenneviere, first, just a comment. People are loving your hair.
Thank
And
you.
same.
Me too.
And so the question that we've got for you is it better to have more images than text to convey the benefits?
I am going to say my personal opinion first, and that is yes. As a shopper, I would much rather see more images from from different directions because I can't. If I'm online shopping, I can't pick up your garment. I can't pick up the piece of art. I can't turn it. I can't see how the light shifts as I move it. And so for me, yes. Now, that's not to say that having more text is bad, and that might be right for your brand. So there's also an element of brand voice that comes into play here where, yes, you want to have enough images on your online store that people who don't get to interact physically with your product, can still get a really great feel for it. But if your brand voice is a little wordy and overly text heavy, that's okay too. That's a choice you're making.
Yeah, that makes sense. And especially, I definitely agree with you in terms of needing pictures constantly. I go to reviews very often and hope that they have pictures attached because it just helps so much.
Like I said, 95% of those people are out there reading reviews. And if you have pictures attached to your reviews on your online store, it elevates those reviews so much more. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Now, going back to Taylor for a sec, there's a question. How did you find your perfect audience? How did you narrow down your target demographics since art is so broad and universal for anyone in any age?
That's a great question because I'm still kind of figuring it out. I definitely have met some amazing people that I least expected would end up buying a huge piece. I love to kind of put a lot of feelers out there. So social media has been a huge part of opening the small business. I do markets and stuff, but I don't have a physical store yet. So kind of opening the conversation on social media, especially about mental health. A lot of my customers actually are people that either struggle with mental health or are other advocates. I've kind of, when I do ads, I've targeted stuff like that, fitness journeys, healing journey, because a lot of my paintings actually, I had to figure out for a long time. I'm still figuring it out. I don't know the algorithm of social media and trying to figure out exactly how to target people. But I know in person, it is a wide range of demographic that I am reaching. There's some people that completely do not understand my abstract art and end up just buying a pillow or something. And then there's people that really are drawn into the paintings themselves. And that demographic is usually people that have some sort of connection to the mental health and recovery community because they resonate. And it makes me very happy when a different demographic actually sits there and I could see their eyes lighting up, like understanding in a different way, what it means to be an advocate for mental health. So I hope that kind of answers your question. Art is very hard, especially in Charleston. I'm from Charleston, by the way. At first, I felt like I was never going to get into a gallery. I was never going to be able to show my art because there's so much art here. And if you don't have an oyster scene or a marsh scene or like something Charleston like, you kind of get pushed out of the local galleries and stuff. And I found one that feels like that's home, the Grand Bohemian Gallery downtown. And that demographic is definitely a different kind too. I think just trying to have a little something for everyone at the beginning will help you kind of start targeting into the demographic.
Yeah, I'd love to see your art in person. I feel like it's so textured. I really want to see how light plays off of it.
Same.
That goes back to Jen when you talked about pictures too. Like, yeah, it's great to take a picture of my paintings, but I want people to touch them, and you cannot capture the texture online. So most of my art sales actually happen in person. I'm grateful for e-commerce because that's a lot of the online stuff because you really need to feel the art. So I liked what Jenneviere said about having a lot of photos and stuff like that. Jenneviere.
So, moving to Leon for another question. We have, what UI UX book or resource would you recommend?
Well, I'm not much of a book reader myself, I'll be honest. I like to see my resources in video format. So there's a lot of good, awesome videos for free on YouTube that you can look for just by typing in UI UX for beginners. So I would start there.
All right, okay. Do you have any favorite channels or creators?
I'm blanking out at the moment. I will quickly find it and I will just add it once I find it. All right?
All right. Feel free to stop us whenever you remember. All right.
Sure.
So, moving to Jenneviere, you mentioned Canva as a practical tool, but what other resources would you suggest for someone who's just starting out?
There are so many good resources out there. Oh my gosh. Great question. Okay, Canva is a great one. I literally use Canva all the time, both personally and professionally. It's one of those tools that you don't have to be a designer to be able to make beautiful designs with. Shopify has a tool called Burst, and you don't have to be a Shopify user to use it. It's free for everyone to use. It is a copyright and trademark free high resolution photographs that you can use for things like your socials. You could put them in a Canva ad if you wanted to. You can put them on your website headers. They're great for, like, you know, if you sell yoga gear like Taylor does, maybe your yoga gear header on your website has somebody doing yoga. You could get a photo of somebody doing yoga for free, and it's copyright and trademark free at Shopify Burst. Other tools. Oh man, I'm also blanking right now, but those are, yes, Taylor, please.
Oh, I have a couple that have helped a lot, and Canva is, when I found Canva, I was like, this is actually going to happen now, because my Instagram and my website looked like a 4-year-old did it, to be completely honest with you. I think one of the most important things, especially navigating posting on Instagram, marketing on Instagram, is sometimes you have a picture of your product that is kind of too big or a weird size. Square Fit is one of the most amazing resources that I use that will allow you to edit your photo, because you know how Instagram sometimes make you do a fit, or it zooms in to one particular part of your image because it's too big. It actually lets you reduce it and put it in the Instagram format without changing the quality of your photo. That helped a lot because the whole idea of the picture would literally be distracted by the fact it's cut away. But that was one I wanted to add.
Love that. Also, in that same sort of vein, I use Enlight, Enlight. It's an iPhone app. I'm guessing they have an Android version. I use that for a similar thing for my own Shopify store to make those square images that fit on Instagram. Also, again, I'm Shopify heavy. I am biased, but please forgive me. But like, Shopify actually just released Link Pop, which is a shoppable link in bio link, so you can use it. If you go to my personal Instagram, you'll see it in actual real life. It allows me to have, like, it's all those links in bio, like Linktree, all of those sort of things, but you can actually shop from my Shopify store right in my Link Pop admin, whatever, dashboard. Yes, dashboard is the word I'm looking for. Also, Later is a really great option for, like, there's a freemium version. Later is for scheduling your Instagram and other social media posts, which is wonderful. It's like a set it and forget it if you want to schedule your stuff. I think that's it for me on that question that I can remember.
Not gonna lie, I was taking notes in the background.
I know I talk a lot, but one more fast one. If you are an artist, you want to have ArtStage. It puts your art in a staged room. And so if you don't have some kind of background, you could edit your painting or art, do it, whatever, into a professional room so it looks professional.
So kind of like a mock-up.
It's the same. It's like exactly like a mock-up with Printful, but it puts it in like very high class, beautiful homes and stuff. So that's definitely helped. I'm just giving everything away. Use the same mock-up. I don't care.
Very grateful on behalf of me and all of the viewers. Right. So.
Sorry, let me jump in with the
Yeah, I was
with
going
the
to ask.
answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the one of the creators that I really love on YouTube about all things design is Jesse Showalter. You can learn a lot of from him, especially if you're using Figma. Another channel is called Flux. It's pretty Webflow heavy, but if you're creating a store or thinking about a store, creating a store, Webflow is also a good tool if you're a designer. So there's a lot of tutorials about that, and also like beginner stuff as well. And if you're into reading more, Medium is a great source for everything. Just search about the things that you want to learn about, and you will find a lot of articles there that are very helpful with like I really love the comparisons of good design and bad design to kind of see what is the bad practice and what is a better practice. So I think those examples are very nice to have, especially when you're starting out. And well, UI UX is very big field, obviously, but like going back to what I said before, just thinking about the user and thinking about in borders of the product you are building right now, I think is a good way to start. And once you've done that and you go to bigger things, it kind of the same knowledge applies and expands. And also in design, like in everything else, once you build something, there's a lot of patterns that already work and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So it's okay to just see an experience from a product or a shop that you already love and just mimicking that, copying that. There's no shame in that.
I feel like there's so much information, and if anyone at home feels like they're kind of overwhelmed and can't write anything down, you can go back to the recording of the live stream and check everything again. So, just stay strong. There's a lot of information, but you're going to be able to get through it. Before we move on, though, so Jenneviere, you mentioned your own Shopify store, and there's a question asking kind of like if you're willing to disclose what's the name of your own online store.
I am, if you really want. My store, I'll preface this by saying that I built my store mostly so that I can buy my own things from Printful. And occasionally, if my friends want to buy them as well, that's great. It is piratehappyhour.com. And it is entirely dedicated to skull and skeleton themed clothing, because I don't know if you can see behind me, I am a grown-up goth, and I really like skulls and skeletons. So you can see a bunch of the things that I talked about in that store. In fact, if you wanted to see like things in practice. But yeah. And it uses Printful.
Awesome. Okay. Where can we go next? I feel like, yeah, we can go back to Taylor for a bit. So we have a question asking, what fabrics would you recommend for high quality t-shirts?
So there are a couple different types of t-shirts that offer, I'm going to use my phone for a reference real quick.
Yeah,
there's one that I love that I could give you. I actually just designed a new one like right before this, but it's partially it's cotton, but it's mixed with nylon, and it's called the Velcro. I can't pronounce it very well. The Velcros Printful t-shirt is, I think that's what it's called. Hang on 1 minute. I'm going to grab the full description of my favorite one. But all the cotton t-shirts, the prints come out just as high quality as the other ones, just a regular t-shirt. But I am you could see my shirt is like hanging off the shoulder. I feel restricted within t-shirts and stuff. So I always want something that's flowing and has a little bit of movement, like with the nylon and stuff. It's Viscose. I can't say it out loud. It's made with hemp too. It's a hemp t-shirt. The fabric it's 60% hemp, 40% combed ring spun organic cotton. So anything with a cotton blend is definitely something that I end up designing, because I don't design anything that I think would be scratchy for anyone. Sometimes 100% cotton feels scratchy to me for some reason. So that's my answer for that one.
All right, very valuable. We have a question kind of for Jenneviere and for Leon both. So the question is basically, does Shopify use all or most of these sort of best practices mentioned in Leon's presentation? So you can both weigh in on that.
Yeah, Leon, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can. Well, I guess the question for me is, do we do it in Printful? And I'm not sure about Shopify.
All right. Okay. So how about Jenneviere? I guess you can answer for Shopify, and then we can.
Yeah, I would say that I would say 85% as a very conservative estimate are things that Shopify does out of the box with a standard monthly subscription. You might start to see some of those, again, conservatively 15% things that maybe Shopify doesn't do out of the box. Those are maybe things that you would see if you were on a higher tier, or maybe into Shopify Plus, which is even higher out of like the monthly subscription rate, and into the enterprise solution. Once you're there, you would encompass 100% of what Leon discussed. Yeah.
All right, and I guess it makes sense, especially if you're a complete beginner in UI UX. You don't necessarily need all the bells and whistles. You kind of need to figure out the basics first.
Well, and the whole point one of the whole points of having a platform that you don't have to maintain yourself is that out of the box, it should have some of those things just built in, right? Like there are those I want to say there are those images, like the credit card images that are automatically just a part of your Shopify store. Like you don't have to do anything special to have those involved. Those accelerated the shopping payment options that I talked about, like those are built into Shopify. You just have to like click the little tick box and it enables those accelerated options. So you're not putting in a multitude of your billing and your shipping addresses and all those sort of things. You can just like fast forward through all of that. Once you tick those boxes as well, your customers don't have to do those things either. So it's just, there's a lot of it that's baked in, because we do know that that's an important part of the checkout process, and getting past that checkout process should be as distraction-free as possible.
I do also want to add that I do not work for Shopify or Printful, but I use Shopify and Printful, and I had no idea how to get my website started at all. Like, could not understand anything. I'm not kidding. Like, not sponsored, nothing. As a collective, Shopify employees have probably stayed on the phone with me for 5 hours. Like, no joke, maybe even more than that. Every time I call, there is a question, and you could call. If you have a subscription, you could call them and ask for advice. They sit there, walk you through it, share every bit of knowledge that they know, and then still send you information after the fact. Like, that, for me, helped me with the confidence of like, okay, maybe I will actually understand how to run a website, how to run a business, because it is really hard to get started on your own. I always say, like, do not like do this on your own. Like, there are resources out there like Printful, like Shopify, that could hold your hand through it. And I have not met one customer service person at Shopify that wasn't like overly sweet. Like, not even a medium sweet, like amazing sweet. So like her, I mean, like you, like it's like an army of bright, sunny energy. So
thank you. Well, I mean, Taylor, your success is our success. And that's not just about you. It's about every person out there. And that's not just about Shopify merchants either. It's everyone doing their own thing in commerce, right? We've democratized commerce, and the more you all succeed, the more we succeed too. So why wouldn't we have a vested interest in you?
Yeah, we have a quick, fairly simple question, I guess, for Leon. Could you please clarify what you meant by upselling, especially for people who don't know what that is?
Sure. Yeah. Well, upselling basically means once your customer is looking, for example, at a product, you may have some kind of other products that could complement that purchase. So as an example, maybe you have a t-shirt with, let's use Jenneviere's example, with skulls on it. And you also sell maybe a fanny pack or a hat that also kind of uses the same pattern or same design and would look awesome with that t-shirt. So you kind of show that those products at that step as well, and the user can either add them to the cart immediately or read more about it and add it later.
All right, so I can get a whole look of a fanny pack and a hat and a t-shirt with a skull. I'm excited.
Yeah, and if you're selling maybe not apparel things, it could be also some other, some different products. For example, if you're selling a wireless headphones, you can upsell with a charger or something.
You know, everything that goes together. I think that makes sense. Right, a quick question for Jenneviere. On your website, you have so many beautiful photos of your products. Are they all model photos or are they mock-ups that you got somewhere?
I love this question, whoever asked it, because the answer is yes. The answer is I use some of it are user generated content, which we often hear acronymized as UGC. User generated content. I offered a substantial discount to some of my friends. I was like, hi, you all are like me. You like skulls and skeletons. If I give you a 40% discount on these items, will you promise to send me photos of you wearing my things that I can use on social, that I can use on my website? Like, are we cool? And a lot of them did. So that's part of them. Another part of them are mock-ups from Printful. There have been substantial increases or improvements in some of the mock-up stuff that we get from Printful. I love the flat lays from Printful now, which were not originally part of the deal when I signed up, which is great. I also use a company called Placeit, Placeit.com. They do other mock-ups. I use a paid version because I'm vain. And I want to have the good stuff. But it allows me to put some of those images on models and do mock-ups that way. So I would say like roughly, I would say 80%, what did I say? 40% are my own friends who are modeling for me. 40% is Placeit and 20%, is that right? Math is hard, is Printful stuff. Or me personally, like you'll see me on my own website. Like there are definitely like some selfies in there too.
You sound like you have very cool friends and very helpful people around you.
Discounts are real. That's really what it is.
I feel like, right, we can move on to, where was this question that I wanted to ask?
Maybe quickly I can jump in again with the mockups. If you're thinking about using Printful for your business, as Jenneviere mentioned, we have expanded a lot of it on the mockup side of things, and we also have custom mockups now, which is basically a simplified version of Photoshop, or maybe Canva would be a better example, where you can also play with backgrounds, you can add things there, you can choose the model that you want to use, you can like create a whole scene and not just the model as a PNG like it was in the beginning.
Fancy.
Right. And I'm being told actually, and this is going to be useful, so for all of the resources that are being mentioned in the Q&A, you are going to be able to find them in the video description. So we're going to do our best to link everything and find everything for you so that's much easier to use.
Great. I will add an addendum as far as like maybe, Leon, maybe the new Printful custom mockups addresses this as well, but something that I talked about in my talk, which is diversity, which is something that's really important, not just to me, but like to everyone. One of the things I love about Placeit is they do have a wide variety of diverse humans in their photos, which is always really lovely to see. So yeah.
Right, so I have a question for both Taylor and Jenneviere. When you're starting to create your designs, do you have any tips on how to develop your own style? How do you break away from the visuals used for reference and establish your own voice?
Okay, so I don't want to offend anyone that has a Pinterest. I have a lot of Pinterest tattoos. Personally, I have printed out tattoos on Pinterest and brought it to my tattoo artist and said, may I please have this on my body? And now I have it on my body. And I love it. And that's amazing that I felt inspired by that image. And there are so many images and places and artists that you feel inspired by. And, there is such a wide understanding that there is that inspiration that you gather from other artists that could almost sometimes feel like copying, but all art is copies of each other. You're inspired by the last artist. I think when trying to create something unique and personal to your brand, staying aware of how much you're looking at other design. Maybe if you're trying to do like e-commerce stuff like Printful offers, staying away from looking at very, very popular social media designs, doing some research too. Like if you did find something that inspired you and, some sort of plant graphic or something and you made it your own, and just going and doing some research of like how many people on Etsy are doing this, how many people are doing this. Because when you're in a polluted market, and I kind of learned this the hard way too when I was starting with watercolor, I was making all these little cactuses and stuff like that, which were fun for me at first, but there was so many people doing that are just better cactuses than me, so just seeing what's out there and making sure it's uniquely your own is my personal advice.
Yes, I like A+ to all of that. I will say my own personal experience was my designs are based on the fact that I couldn't find them. Like I wanted, like I was looking for things that I could, in fact, things that I could wear to the Shopify San Francisco office, right? Back when we were in offices, back in the before times. And I was like, look, I want to represent, like I want to have little skulls on my pencil skirts, and I want to have little like polos with like, like a little collared shirt with like a little skull embroidery. And I looked everywhere for almost 2 years. I spent hours looking for them online, like searching all the search terms, and my Google Foo was not helping at all. And finally I realized, like, Jenneviere, you have all of the tools you need to make them yourself. And I bet if you make them, other people might want them, because other people are coming up dry when they're searching for corporate goth, or they're searching for grown-up goth, or they're, I see you laughing, Elizabeth.
No, I just love it. Like corporate goth, I feel like should be a name of an aesthetic.
It is. I mean, if you look
now.
at my Pinterest, I have them hashtagged as corporate goth. And they are. They're pencil skirts with like argyle, but with skulls in them. And it's just like, it goes back to what Taylor had on one of her slides, which is, would you wear this? And that was what formatted all of mine, is like, I want to wear this. I'm a grown-up goth who has outgrown Hot Topic, but I still want to like represent when I go to my office. So like, that's what I made. And that's how I made my brand voice, was just like, we're here for the grown-up goths. Baby bats can join too, it's fine.
I feel like I can definitely relate to the idea of, having Pinterest tattoos that are covered by some more corporate styles, and having this like sort of mix and trying to find a way to mix those things together properly.
Briefly, I want to say, I know that I'm not really very brief, but briefly, the comparison slide that I brought into the mix too, I fall into I was watching HGTV and there was a how to do plaster art yourself DIY, and I went, oh no, they're all going to do my art. Yeah, I'm not going to sell anything anymore. People are going to do it. No, that's why, like, yeah, that's a thing. I didn't create plaster art, but you ain't know what chemical reaction iron paint made that. You know what I mean? So finding different things. So taking an idea, that's an example of taking a medium. People work with oil, but figuring out, should I put oil on this piece of felt and then put it on the canvas? Stuff like that. Just like figuring out what works that won't be easily copied, because that's also something that will come up in small businesses. You might feel that feeling. Thank you.
Yeah, and that personal style is always in the details, and that definitely makes sense. Quick question for Leon, actually. What do you do if you don't have any reviews yet?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think Jenneviere will have better answers than me, but I had a store also that we created. I was selling. It was a bit of a gimmick that was popular. These kind of Renaissance portraits where you could put your pet on. So yeah, I created those for a little while, but it was just too time consuming because I had to actually take the customer's photo, Photoshop it onto the canvas, and then it's just a lot of manual work. But what we did is we asked the first customers that purchased our products to then come back and leave a review, and we will give you a discount code for that action. So this is one type of thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, I will second that. Ask your customers. Particularly, I would recommend just mentioning that you are a small business, that you are a sole owner or a family business. That is definitely like one of those things that as I'm shopping personally, like if somebody messages me and says, "Hey, I'd love to know what you thought of this thing that you bought." We're a small business. We rely heavily on reviews on our site to make sure that people know that we are quality, that we're shipping fast, that that you're getting what we say you're getting. So I would love it if you could take some time to make a review. Offering a discount is optional, sometimes great. I've also experienced one of my favorite Shopify merchants is Backdrop Paint. And in fact, that's who you'll see behind me here. I've painted all my walls with Backdrop Paint. They do a really amazing thing where they don't offer a discount for future purchases. They offer a donation to a nonprofit or like a club or a group that's in need when you give your discount, or when you give your review, which is like an easy sell for me. If I know that a $10 donation goes to some group, like a women's group that is surviving trauma, just because I give a review, that's an easy decision for me to make. I will absolutely give that review because I might not need more paint, but I'm happy to help others. And so those altruistic review incentives are sometimes even more powerful than that discount, especially if you're offering something that maybe isn't like repeat purchasable very often. Like how often do I repaint this wall, but how often do I know that other people are in need?
That's
Yeah,
right. And
that's
I feel
great.
like it's such a good idea to offer charitable donations. Yeah, Leon?
No, I just second that. Yeah, that's a great idea to do it like this. This is a great incentive.
Right. Quick question to Taylor. So kind of staying on the topic of just starting out and what do you do, how do you handle not having any sales starting out? How do you pick what to create? What drives that decision for you?
So I've had, since even becoming, I guess I'm still trying to stay successful. I feel successful. I feel like I'm achieving things. But at first there was very small sales and large gaps in between sales. And in that time, so there's a couple different financially, emotionally, physically different areas of this question. Financially, picking up little side jobs, babysitting, stuff like that, like just or anything to just have a little bit extra coming in, because you are 100% going to freak out if you walk into creating this business and then having no sales, and then that is not going to inspire you at all. You're going to be terrified. So having just a cushion at the beginning and that feeling when you finally say, okay, I don't have to do a gig, is the most amazing feeling ever. And in between that time, those huge gaps, like after Christmas, this was my first Black Friday experience, and it was COVID. We're in the world right now is a scary place especially to start a small business. And I emotionally had to process, like, Taylor, do you have money to go buy a piece of art right now? No, like, I don't have that extra money. No one does. Not a lot of people do have that extra money right now, just with how high gas prices, inflation, and that scares people. But having that time and just picking up little things here and there, you have that time to start learning how to market. Watch every YouTube video you could possibly watch on marketing, advertising. Watch tips how to do social media, because social media is a huge part of forming e-commerce businesses now. Unfortunately, I wish it was like the olden. Anyway, so you have to learn. You have to do as many educational side things as possible, just so that with your sales being low for that moment, because they won't be low forever, you figure out how to get people to your website when they stop being scared of gas being $7, because people are thinking, oh wow, I love her t-shirt with her poems on it, whatever, and they're thinking, I'm going to save when I get my tax return, I'm going to do it. You don't know if you're not engaging with your customers or your following that haven't become customers yet, you don't know who is saving to buy something that you're selling. And I had to learn that the hard way, of beating myself up for a while and then it happening and trying to figure out why it happened. And usually I'm doing something wrong with marketing. So figuring out marketing is definitely a huge tip when you are in a lull of sales, instead of trying to change everything at once.
Right, and that is definitely valuable advice, especially if you're selling something as expensive as paintings. People do need to save up for a while. Now, a quick question that I'm actually super interested in as well to Jenneviere. Where is the line between bad design and personal style preferences?
That is a very nebulous answer because it does depend. One example that comes to mind right away is Sticker Mule. Sticker Mule, if you're on, like I am, if you're on their email list, which recommended, amazing stuff, great deals. Their email list is entirely lo-fi. It is literally usually no more than 3 sentences, usually no more than 5 or 7 words per sentence, with an inline link. No visuals, no images, no HTML. It is extremely effective. It is extremely lo-fi. And some might even say that it toes the line on bad design, especially for a company like Printful, which is priding itself on amazing design. But it works. So the answer is nebulous, because is it your brand voice? Does that brand voice toe the line of bad design? Is it consistent in its bad design? Is where I would say that boundary exists. Like, if you're making a choice to make questionable / bad design, make sure that it's consistent and only do those pieces that you've like previously agreed that are going to be that questionable or bad design piece, if that makes sense.
It does, for sure, especially with like things like meme culture. I can definitely imagine some brands trying, almost like genuinely trying to be a little bit bad to make like things more fun.
Yeah, and there's bad design, and then there's edgy design, and then there's like there's a Venn diagram where those two things exist too. I would say that in that Venn diagram existence, I would personally, I would pull back on the, I would rather have it be bad design than bad meme, if that makes sense. Meme? I made that up. Whatever, it's a thing now. You can meme me.
I think it's important to distinguish design from aesthetic. For design to be good, it has to be functional. It has to be easy to use, pleasant to use. And aesthetic, of course, helps to achieve that as well. But it doesn't mean that it has to be like colored in lines all the time and have to be pixel perfect or whatever. As the sticker mule example, there's another example, I think Dogecore, which is also, I think, a Printful client. I saw their like testimonials about Printful and checked out their site, and also subscribed to the newsletter. And it's very funny. It's very edgy. It's aesthetic that a lot of people wouldn't say is pretty, but it works for the brand itself. And there's no like reason for you to hide from the aesthetic that you like. But just keep in mind that whatever you design, whatever you build, it just needs to be easy to use.
I love that distinction. That's perfect. Yeah, like it can be something that not everyone finds aesthetically beautiful. That's okay. But again, like it goes back to what I was saying, like make it a choice. You're making this choice, and you're making this choice in X, Y, and Z places, and that's where you all agree, whether you're a team of 1 or a team of 300, that's those places that you've agreed to make this choice, but it still has to be functional and functionally easy to use with that distraction-free environment.
Yeah, I feel like that's a perfect answer, to be honest. I have a really sort of quick practical question for Leon. So where should the Shop Now button direct from the hero image on the homepage?
Well, it depends on how many pages your site has, how deep it goes. In majority of cases, the Shop Now could go to the product page, just to your product catalog. It could be trending products if you have such a section. And it can even be in the same page where this button appears. So if it's a hero section in your homepage, for example, it just can anchor down, scroll down to the trending products or the products that you want to showcase or that you're having a sale on, for example. So it has to lead to the products, wherever they are, that you want the user to buy.
I would like to chime in, because I'm opinionated. I think it really depends on what your homepage is featuring. What you're directing people to, whether it's like if they're just landing on your .com and you have your homepage and it's just a general shop now, then it should go to like your catalog with some sections. If you've directed people from some sort of like Facebook or Instagram marketing and you've caught their attention because you're advertising beauty products, and you have a large catalog that only a portion of it is beauty products. Maybe you also sell clothing, and maybe you also sell accessories. If they've come from a beauty product ad and you drop them onto your beauty product homepage, you want that shop now to be to the beauty products and not to any of the rest of because that's how they came. They showed intent that they wanted your beauty products. If they want to go elsewhere, they can use the site nav. So I think it depends on where they're coming from.
Yeah, that's very fair. There's this quick question, because there's a bunch of this coming in. A lot of people are asking about advertising tips, but I welcome you to check out previous Threads conferences where we also cover advertising and different marketing stuff. But as far as this specific question, it's both for Taylor and Jenneviere. Do either of you run ads, and how does that work for you?
You could go first.
Oh, okay. I was gonna just like tap it over to you, but like sure. I don't, because my store is not something that like it is a set it and forget it store for me. Like literally, this is walking around money in my pocket money. This is just, I also just, I use my store to talk to other merchants to show them like, here's what Shopify backend looks like. Here's what it looks like when I update my own product so that they can learn how to do it themselves, because I talk with merchants literally every day. So it is part demo store and part I want to order my own samples store. And like, okay, if people order elsewhere, sure. But I'm not advertising. So Taylor, over to you.
I have tried really hard to figure out ads. Running campaigns has been very difficult for me, to be completely honest with you. And sometimes I will get it just right on Facebook or Instagram, and I actually see a different outcome from the campaign. I'll see, social media followers or a couple of random purchases from really random places that I know that came from the campaign, but I'm still in the phase of, I am not very technologically savvy, and I'm still in this stage of watching 100 YouTube videos to figure out exactly how to do it. Last night, it's funny that this was a question. Last night, I'm running a sale tomorrow, 20%. This is a great example. So I'm getting ready for an exhibition. I live in a tiny apartment. You could see I have paintings literally all over my apartment, and they're spread across Charleston, but I need to make room. So I am running a 20% off sale tomorrow for a week. Last night, I wanted to have, an ad start flowing. I am new with Google Ads. I did a lot of research to figure it out, and I figured out that the bids, there was already like 800 clicks, like a lot of clicks. And I was like, okay, so all I had to do for my demographics, I think my only advice, because this just kind of worked, is really thinking about your demographic, because that's the main questions these ads are going to ask you is, who is looking at your brand? And so for me, I have a wide range of people, like people buying homes, interior designers, people that are into home decor, and then all the way to, yoga enthusiasts. So sometimes it is for ads, for me, it is kind of hard to target a demographic. But when you have a wide range like that, you could just play around, but do not do what I did. If you don't know how to run the ads, please don't spend money on them. I spent so much money on ads that I just clicked. I'm like, yeah, they're in a relationship. She's my demographic. Like, just dumb thing. Just no. Just wait until you know exactly what you're reading, because I guessed along the way and I lost a lot of money. And it's very easy to total up with the ads. So definitely watch out for that. One more piece of advice. I have and a lot of people call me gullible. I am pretty gullible. I want the best out of people. I have fallen for a lot of scams on social media. There are going to be people that will reach out to you that are going to say, oh, you're a small business. Your small business is amazing. I'm going to run this ad for you. It's just $30 for 3 posts. And then they send you all these automated people. Like, do your research. I didn't at first, and let me make the mistakes, and you learn from it that if it sounds too good to be true, especially regarding ads on social media, it is. And if someone needs to send you a check, and then just never mind. There's scammers out there. So just be careful when you first start out, because every inquiry about your art or your business is going to be exciting and you're going to get lit up. And then I almost sent money for someone to buy a painting from me, so just stay focused and do your research, and don't trust everyone when you first start out. Thank you.
This honestly sounds like some good big sister advice almost. Right, so there's a question for Jenneviere, but I feel like all of you could weigh in on this. So how much do you typically test your product design before publishing it to your store? Like, apart from your personal opinions, how many opinions from friends and acquaintances do you think are enough?
Oh, I mean, that's an easy answer. None. because I use Printful, I'm not purchasing any product beforehand, right? I only pay for it when somebody else purchases it. So like I do again, going back to Taylor's slide, I do would I wear this test? And if the answer is yes, and almost always the answer is yes, my drawer is full of my own products. I post it. If nobody else buys it, I'm not out anything. This is the beauty of print on demand. It exists only when somebody purchases it. So there's very little overhead financial risk for me as a seller. I can put out 5,000 designs, and if nobody buys a single one of them, I'm not out any money. I'm out the time that it took to design them. That's it. So I don't do a ton of testing. I'm also not like, my store is not the one that you should like. It's a side. It's a very, very like back of the side hustle. Like it's back behind those other side hustles that I do. So maybe I would love to hear from the other panelists.
Yeah, well, the thing with testing is that it never ends, and it never should end. And it's all of the design, the UI UX part of it at least, is a constant loop. When you build something, you test it out, you take notes of what needs to be remedied, you do that, you test again, and it just goes on and goes on. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't get live. So if again you're using dropshipping or print on demand, there is no huge risk involved financially for you, so you can test it out on real users. And if you want to go even more advanced with that, and you're really into like seeing what works and what not, there are tools like Hotjar, for example, which tracks clicks and how long this user stay on site. You can even see like video recordings of mouse moving around, and you can see what the user thinks when he or she is in your store. So the quick answer is the testing should never end. But if you want to get your like first opinions from people, the maximum amount of people willing to give you that information should suffice.
Yeah, Hotjar and Lucky Orange are both amazing for that kind of the heat map on your site. If you want strangers to like experience your thing, and then you get their opinions. But yes, friends and family are also really great.
I think what was important to me was, especially friends and family, my friends just saying what they think would be, especially I'm in my late 20s, I almost 30s, and just figuring out what people would wear, back to what people would wear, like, would I really wear this? And that's like the question I always ask myself, because at first it looks like a cool idea. I'm like, yeah, that's great, but I only wear black and white. Like, am I really going to incorporate this into my closet? When you wear this, I wear the same dress like 4 times a week because I like how it feels on me. Because I'm weird about cloth, as I described earlier. But there are some of my products that I will wear, and I actually love them, and I create them because I like to wear them. There is no, if your small business is just print on demand to get started, there is no financial risk. Do not do the ad thing. Like, just make them, keep playing with your website, and then gravitate. So I'm in a situation now that at first I was doing art shows and art walks and markets, like farmers markets, and it wasn't the right clientele, wasn't the right place. People weren't buying art on a Sunday during a farmer's market. When I first started doing this and people were buying them and excited about the throw pillows and yoga stuff, I had to make the decision, am I going to buy this and put it away right now? Like, am I going to carry this product at the market? And what happens if it doesn't sell? Because I didn't take a loan out. I was barely making it. And the first market crushed it, sold everything. I'm so excited. Everyone loved it. Especially with the phone cases, you never know what type of phone case people could have. But I reordered, got a ton of stuff. And there was a couple products that were newer, selling pillows and stuff that I still have to this day. But then there's some pillows that you can't keep for more than a couple of days if I'm doing a market, and you'll learn as you go what kind of products those are if you are doing in-person markets, which is a great way. let me just add this. This is a great tip. If you have art, craft, and farmers markets in your town, do them. That is the only way. That is, I don't know how I forgot to even talk about this. That's the only way I grew. That's the only way that I made my first sales that weren't my great aunt and like her friends, because she was like, oh my God, like I met all these people. And when you are passionate about something, they will see it in your eyeballs and you will be able to sell it. And just getting out of your comfort zone. And if you are e-commerce and you're just getting started, once you see what's selling, and give yourself a couple months, and when you feel comfortable, and do not risk it. If that is your last $50, do not buy a product to bring to a market with it. Just when you feel confident and you're ready for testing without breaking your spirit, because that's the most important part, is if you break your spirit, then you're not going to want to do it and you're going to walk away. So definitely just test what's working, what's not, at zero cost to you at first, and then move forward.
All right. We are basically done with our time. I would love to stay here and ask you guys a bunch more questions, but I feel like that is a nice and inspiring note to end on. And yeah, big thank you for all of you to coming out and just sharing your experience with everybody. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you. It was so fun.
Right. And it's been a delight to hear from everybody who has been watching. We hope you enjoyed today's presentations and heard some genuinely valuable advice that you'll apply in the future. It's not too late to post your takeaways on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, or Facebook using the hashtag Printful Threads. And don't forget, within the next 24 hours, we will pick random 50 people who have used the hashtag Printful Threads to receive a $10 coupon for Printful. So go on social media and spread the word. If you're one of our winners, you'll get a DM from us in the social media platform that you used to share. Now for some more useful content, or just to see my face again, you can check out our YouTube channel. We just recently started a new series called Ask Printful, where I'll be asking your most burning questions to Printful's experts. Or you can go on the Printful blog, where we post regular updates to help you maximize your store's success. I also highly recommend checking out the Printful Academy. We have a course to get you started on the right foot in the world of e-commerce. When you finish the course, you'll even get points, which you can then exchange for rewards. So you can get custom goodies and valuable knowledge at the end of it. So this is a goodbye for now. It's been very exciting for me, and I hope you learned a lot, but I look forward to seeing you all again. Bye-bye.